Got these kids at another camp and bring them over. Right before then, I told the story before. This little kid that started, he was a 6-year-old. His name was Nugget. His family drove a blue school bus and had a Volkswagen van welded over the top. That was where the parents slept in there, and they slept. The kids slept down before below. They had 5 kids that were starving. And so they said, "You got to help us." So I went over and we put on this whole program. We made all this food for kids. And Nugget had fallen, the little boy Nugget that was 6, and he put his teeth all the way through there. And he bit his tongue almost in 2. So they had him all sewn up from the hospital. So he come over, we got this little boy there, and he's starving. And I think, what a punk Satan is. Here's a starving kid. We made him all this cool food, and he can't eat. And I was bawling. I turned around, and I couldn't even pray for him at first, because I was thinking, what a punk Satan is to pick up little kids. And they come in here, a baby in a womb after you. And then I'm sitting there watching that, and I'm like, wow. So I turned back around, kind of get together, and I said, "Nugget, can I get you some food?" He goes, "Too sore, man. I can't eat." So I'm like, too swollen up. So I said, "Can I pray for you?" So I'm praying for this little boy. And we're praying for him so I'm praying that he can eat some food. And I said, "You know, we feed a bunch of people, but we got your stuff out first. So if you get hungry, come and let me know." So about 5 minutes later, in the line, I feel his tug on the leather vest, and I turn around. And there's Nugget there after prayer. The stitches are completely missing. His tongue and his skin was completely healed. His tongue was healed, and he ate 4 plates full of food. See, that's our God in action. God's looking for people that want to go out in action.
That's right.
With deeds.
Yeah.
And power that manifests with it.
Amen.
Power, because we have answers they don't have. You got answers for these kids. We can send them home with boxes of food. We can send them home with some cash to get them out of there. But that little boy needed something to get that food inside. He needed something beyond what the physical was here. We needed somewhere when the physical runs out. Praise God, he's not stuck in the physical. He can move in the supernatural. That's the hope of God that we carry inside of us. We carry him inside. I put out one day, I was going to bring the Lord with me. And I had all kinds of stuff. I put that over on Facebook, and all these people were going, "What do you mean you're bringing the Lord with you?" And I'm like, "How can I not? He goes with me everywhere. I live inside. He lives inside me. He goes with me everywhere." So I go,
Amen.
"Well, I just want to brag on God. Can I brag on God?
Brag on
Him. I'm going to tell a few more deals just to brag on God. I need some stuff." And I was thinking about that song, and there's this guy, and he loved some of the old worship songs like that. And he was really a wealthy guy. He had a mansion. And so when I lived in Denver, where I was a youth pastor for a long time and did ministry, so he would invite me to his mansion to have these big parties, and I'd take my guitar, but he couldn't wait for the people to leave so he could just play worship. He just loved worship. And he was a really neat guy, but he gave a lot of money away. I mean, this guy was very generous. So this guy got very sick, and he was in the hospital in a coma. And his wife called me and said, "Ron, could you come and we're going to pray in there, and then we're going to go to the room possibly and pray for him." And so I go to the hospital, and they're in the chapel. It says, "Meet us in the chapel at this hospital." I go in there, and here's 4 or 5 of my favorite ministers in the world in there, because he gave a lot of money. And they flew out there to be with this man. And so I go in there, and I get this vision of the Lord saying, he loved worship, and you need to go and worship till he sets up out of that coma. So I'm hearing these people, and they're like, "It's over." And so I give this word, "Hey, we're just going to worship till he sets up." And 3 or 4 people that were my heroes in the faith took me out in the hallway to talk to me and tell me to shut up.
Yeah, right.
Wow. But I had a word of the Lord.
Yeah, that's what you go.
So I talked to his wife and his 3 daughters and said, "Would you go in with me?" So I had to take my strings off the guitar, and we had to scrub it, and then scrub the strings and put them all back on. And I went in and I played worship all night for that guy. My fingers were bleeding. A little bit before sunrise, he sat up and said, "Man, I've been singing for a couple hours. It just wouldn't come out my mouth." God said he has more stuff to share with his daughters and his wife before he leaves. And he had 2 wonderful days with his wife and daughter, and then went on with the Lord peacefully. I had called from someone a while back, and they said, "Hey, you know, I just got married. This friend of mine was younger," and said, and his friends, really good friends with their dad, no family. And they said, "Look, my brother-in-law, he OD'd on drugs, and he's in a coma, and they want to pull a plug. And we want to know if you could pray." But my mother-in-law and father-in-law aren't saved. So I'm like, "Well, put him on the phone. I'd like to talk to him. Just put me on speaker." They're at the hospital, and I got to pray. And I said, "Look," and they're like,
do you know why our son's here? I go, I really don't care.
Yeah.
It don't matter. He just needs some help from Jesus right now.
That's right.
It don't matter where he's at. But I can tell you this, it's not over until Jesus says it's over.
Yeah, amen.
If it was, I'd be in a grave somewhere. It's not here talking. And all crippled up. So I watched that. So I said, look, we're going to pray and we're going to believe and see what God does. Well, so the parents, they're like, yeah, that just sounds a little weird. I'm thinking they're probably think if they see me, I'd have a third eyeball show up or something. Something weird. And so I'm talking to them. And so they said, the doctors say they want to unplug them. I said, well, God's telling me, I prayed, and God's telling me he hasn't made a decision about Jesus yet. So it don't matter what they do. God's going to keep them alive till he makes a decision.
Yeah.
So they unplugged him, and they left him unplugged for a week. They thought he'd die in 30 seconds. So they plugged him back in. About that time, the parents got saved.
Yeah.
And the parents are praying for him. And he goes in, and they talk to him about Jesus Christ, and he squeezes their hand, each one of them, when they talk about Jesus.
Amen.
They
Amen.
unplugged him. He died in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
See, it's not over till Jesus says it's
That's
over.
right. That's
We
right.
have inside us. We carry around the very presence of God
Yes,
inside
we
us.
do. Yes,
We need to get out of the way and let him do his thing more and more.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you, I think I told you last time I was here, there was someone up working in the mountains on the fire, and he died. We got electrocuted and went down. I got to pray, and God healed that man.
Yeah.
Just like me, I got to pay back what was for me. They said, well, we know someone about electrocution. Call him. I get stuff at least once a week, some serious deal. Someone somewhere sends me a deal. I tell a story. We were down in Southern California. It's been some months back, maybe 4 or 6 months ago. And so when my mother in the spirit, Mary Baxter, she wrote a book about going to hell and that. And Mary Baxter ordained my wife and I, so we got reordained through her so we could be ordained together. And Mary was going to have a meeting. So we go down to Southern California, and God says, well, go to the rest of the meeting. We knew David Ogren was going to be there and some other people, so I said, I'd like to see him and meet him some. So I thought, man, it'll be worth it. So we go down to Southern California, and we're down there. Well, Mary doesn't come. So we're down there for Mary, and we told him, look, she said, would you guys come and support me and be there and minister with me? He said, yeah, we'll come, Mary. You're like a mama to us, so no problem. And so we're down there. And we're waiting, and David comes the next day, and they had good ministry the night before. And so David's there, and this guy he had heard said someone had met him out in the street, and he had a little baby that was named River. River had drowned in a bathtub. And River was brain dead basically for a long time, and his eyes were sank back in his head, and his body was stiff, and he was on a respirator that they take portable, and River couldn't even move at all. He's a stiff little body. So David Hogan prayed for him, and they said, isn't that guy that died, isn't he here? And the pastor said, yeah, he's back over there. Bring him up here. Him and his wife. So I got to ask him, can I hold this little baby? And this little baby, that just eyes were sank back. As I started praying over the little baby, he tracked me and watched me son. Then Anna held him, and this little baby that has no brain activity tracked Anna. Went back, and so we prayed for the little boy. We prayed for him, and some things happened, and better things. So then we went back home. We brought him back another night, and we totally got to minister to the mom who was there when that happened, was blaming herself. And she had just beat herself all up, and we got so love on her and see what God was doing with her. And I just told her, look, this is what God said. He's not going to get healed tonight, but he got more. He got some movement, and he could track, and then his eyes worked all the time that night. And they said, you're going to see him, this first smile he has, he's going to look up and smile at you like you loved. About a week later, I get this call, and he looked up and smiled at his mom.
Oh.
So he went down a few months later just to minister again to that little boy and do some other stuff. Now that little boy can stand up on his own. He's getting all kinds of therapy, and we're watching that little boy come back to life.
Come on.
Amen.
See, I'm telling you, that's how we are when Jesus came. We were dead in ourselves. We didn't have the right mind. We had nothing until Jesus comes and starts living through us.
That's right.
He lives through us.
That's right.
I love that guy. So there's just so much stuff that God is doing all over. We're an army of God, not individuals. So I just want to tell some stuff.
Yes, we are.
A few weeks ago, we were in Oregon. They called us up to go to these little churches, and so we spoke in a couple churches on Sunday morning. And I had to drive back all night so I could go to work in the morning. She slept in the car best she could. And so we get there, And I see at the first church, this guy gets up and he's playing guitar up in the worship team. And he can't sing anymore, and they have to help him up, and he's got his walker and stuff, and his heart's so bad. But he's still up there trying to worship our God and in love with our God. And I was thinking, this ain't right, man. I'm not leaving here today. And I got this deal from God that said, this ain't happening. Every once in a while God tells me, this train's turning around, it's going the other way.
Come on now.
So I just laid hands on that man with my wife, and we prayed for him.
Amen.
So we're driving back home the next day, and I get this text we get from the pastor's wife. Says, you know the old guy you prayed for that can't even sing and worship anymore? Well, he went jogging this morning, and he said he's just old and out of shape, but he was happy to get tired, and he could breathe, and he jogged for several blocks, and then walked for a whole bunch of blocks. He couldn't even walk up to the stage without being wiped out. See, that's the kind of God we carry with us.
That's right. Amen.
But I'm telling you, if you get healed, I've seen so many thousands of healings and miracles.
Yeah.
If you get healed and you don't get saved, it's just a longer trip to hell.
Yeah.
I'm not sure you don't just torment somebody. So I've been watching God do some crazy, amazing stuff. What we do. My neighbor, he got cancer. We got to pray for him. Cancer left. This happened twice. It happened to a guy that I met here. There was a famous Dodger pitcher came here one time to meet up. And even his number of cancer, they got a tracer in your blood that can see cancer, and they said it'll always be in there. Well, he was the first one. He went back and it was really bad, and they had no trace of it after God healed with cancer. Zero trace of it. My neighbor had a really high cancer number, and he said, oh, no way. We prayed. His cancer number is like a healthy person, super healthy person.
Hallelujah.
See, we're starting to see, you know, when people are around you, there should not be sickness in our church.
Come on.
There should be none. That should be a place of sickness is afraid to go near. Because the Christians in there carry the power of Jesus, and Jesus is set right in that service, the healer. Sickness and disease wants to run from the healer.
Amen. Amen.
So we're accepting it.
Amen.
I'm going to tell about this guy I met in Southern Cal. They brought him to me, and he, 30 years ago, he got in a skiing accident when he was a young man and snapped his neck, so he's in a wheelchair on it. And little power sip and puff wheelchair where his arms don't really work in that, very little, so he's got to do the sip and puff to get around. So he's been taking morphine for 30 years for pain, and serious pain. So I said, well, I can pray for you, you'll go away for a little while, but until you fight that demon and tell it it's not welcome pain, it's going to keep coming back. So you call me, I promise you call me, I'll answer when you call, and I'll pray for you every time you really need it. But he said, I want to be off all these opiates and morphine. I'm like, okay, 30 years of it's a long time, unless you have a lot of side effects. Okay. So I started praying for him. Well, he started calling like every day for a little bit, and then pretty soon it's like once a week, and then it's like once a month, and then it was like, well, he never calls me anymore because he didn't welcome pain anymore. I kept telling him, you got to stand up. See, most of my life I was waiting for Jesus to come in like Superman and take care of all my problems. But Jesus would give me my book, and he said, I got on the cross, and I said, it's finished.
Yeah, come on.
Now it's time for me inside you speaking to that thing and saying, you're done. You're done in my life, and it doesn't happen right away. I told a story before. I came home after 3 months on the road where my wife couldn't go out with me, and I got this tumor on my back. We're like, you stinking tumor, you have no right to be on me. We prayed for three days straight about that. Laid hands on it, prayed several times a day, and on the third morning my wife woke up and said, it's time, huh? And I said, yeah. We went in and we laid hands on it, and that thing split out of my skin, and she threw it in the trash. She closed it up with a butterfly, nothing there. See, it wasn't welcoming, but it took 3 days to tell the thing you weren't welcome. And some people have been welcome pain, they've been welcome sickness, they've been making excuses for it. There's a lot of churches been making excuses when it doesn't work. I went in, I got to go to I told that story before here, I got to go to the place where I was in a paraplegic state where only one hand worked. And I got to pray for people. I did a chapel service they invited me to do.
Amen.
Well, guess what? That day, 3 totally paralyzed people walked out of that room. In 1 year, 4 others walked. And everyone we prayed for, we said, let's do it scientific. Everyone they let us go, I took 2 other paralyzed guys that God healed with me. And we went room to room and prayed for anybody they let us do. Everyone we prayed for did better than they ever hoped for or got healed. And everyone we did worse. Just chose God or not. So I'm telling you, that's the thing. There's inside us is this deal that should excite us to hear. What are you doing, God? What do you got for me? You know, I was happy working away some months ago, And next thing I know, God, these people came to me, some Native we minister a lot on reservations and stuff, and First Nation people, and they said, hey, Ron, we think you're supposed to go to Fiji with us. I'm like, man, I'm really busy, and God hadn't said that to me. No, I don't think so. I'll pray about it. And so I was praying about it, I was thinking, that's a lot of money to go to Fiji, and I don't really have it. And so, God, I see that as a deal sometimes. So we know God sends you sometimes when you don't have it. I go, I know if I hear from him really strong, we go, and we don't have it, and he takes care of us. But I've had friends that didn't follow that regiment, and they got stuck somewhere, so we had to get them back home. So, I don't want to go that route. I'd rather go one that looks like God did good. So there's plenty of times we left supernatural. I've been on the road when I was sitting home one day saying, God, we only got one tank of gas, and that maxed us out. Our credit cards are maxed out. We've traveled so much, we just can't go no more. And so we were invited to this place, and we wanted to go. And so this prophetess lady calls me up. She goes, what are you doing sitting home on your couch? That's what God says. Get on the road. You're supposed to go. Yeah. So I told my wife, hey, either the gas tank will make it there and back, or God's got a plan. Yeah. I mean, that's clear out of the blue. She doesn't know what's going on. Yeah. So we're driving, and we get long ways away from home, and the gas gauge is going down and going down. Pretty soon, little gas lights on. I'm like, okay, God, what's going to happen here? Is it just going to keep running? What? We're just praying, and we're worshiping God, just driving along. And some phone rings. And this person said, God told me to go down and put cash in your account today because you need the cash. When they put cash in, it's on a debit card. Right as I'm running out of gas, we pull in the gas station, boom, the debit card worked. We got there, and this guy that I did some work for said, I would never give money to someone like you. That's the stupidest thing I ever did. But we're there, and we're supposed to, they said, you come, we'll put you up. So we got there and said, oh, family showed up. You're going to have to go to a hotel. So I'm like, okay, God, what are you going to do here? Well, this guy that told me he would never send us money, and that's the stupidest thing he's ever heard. Well, he knew someone in the town we were at in New Mexico, and he sent a check for $500 for me so we could pay the hotel room and get home. He sent it to that guy. He said, look up this guy, he's in your area. You'll find out about him. He's this dead man guy. You just look around, you'll find him. So he found me and gave him the $500 and then gave me some more offerings so we make sure we make it back home. Amen. So I'm telling you, that's the kind of God we serve. If he's called you, you go. So I'm minding my own business, and we're just enjoying what God's doing. And I'm thinking, I'm at work, and I'm helping at this place, which is a legal marijuana grow, and I'm working on their house. Not the marijuana part, but on their house, because I don't like marijuana because some people. So I'm working on their house, and they said, hey, you know, it's kind of harvest time for us this time. We're going to be harvesting. You probably should be gone for the next few weeks. So I'm like, okay, I got that. So I drive home. When I get home, and it's coming home from work, and she says, hey, I got this text, and this is the text I got to show you. It says, Ron Ogren, we got a ticket for Fiji for this guy and paid for all the hotels and stuff, and he can't get his passport. Ron Ogren, you have a passport, and God said he's giving you the green light. Wow. So I pack my luggage and leave for Fiji the next morning. Yeah. So I'm like, okay. And there's this pastor. We're just going to go along. I'm just going to help this pastor. So we get to his house. He said, oh, yeah, I'm only taking you down to San Francisco to the airport. I'm not going. So I'm like, well, what's going on? Well, you better be ready, brother. In season or out. We get to go to Fiji. There was some bad stuff happening there that was being covered up. A lot of crazy good meetings of God. I went to one meeting, we went 20,000 Christians, non-denominational, were meeting on the beach in front of the mansion that was for their king at one time. Now it's for their elected leader. 20,000 people every Saturday morning. Early in the morning. My heart was like, oh my gosh, who are these people? Friday nights, Saturday morning, people don't go over to people's place because most of the churches, they pray all Friday night till Saturday morning. Amen. There's a bunch of stuff on one, but we knew there's stuff we had for them. Oh my gosh, God did some stuff. I'm with these Native American ladies that are kind of leaders. If they would have seen, they took us to the first church at night. It's way up this hill with a crazy little trail, and you know the steps, one's this big and one's that big, and all over. They would, if they could have seen in the morning, I could have never got them up that hill. They sent a bunch of young guys down to help them get up, and they go, come on, Pastor, we got to get you up the hill. They're ready for you up there now, man. The people been waiting. I love it too. They play the drum, boom, 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 on the big logs. I'm like, what's that? That's saying, get to church. I mean, boom, 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 what's that? You better get to church, you're going to be late. Boom, 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 now you're late, you better get there. So we got these open walls and stuff. I remember I seen a spider go across the front, and it was big, man. I could have put something on that. It could have been a saddleback for us. I was like, you want to go up there? Like, dude, that's where you're going. So we got to do a lot of stuff. We took all our suitcases full, took almost no suitcases, everything we could, and we gave away hundreds of dresses for the ladies. And we took suitcases full of Native American jewelry, and they said, there's people there said, we've never seen, they call them Red Indians. They'd seen them on TV, but knowing there's a lot of East Indians there, but they'd never seen what they call Red Indians. It was like a novelty everywhere we went. Going and we're finding stuff, we're preaching, and God's doing stuff. We get healings, and people are getting saved, and some neat stuff, but we're going, wow, this is not why we're here. And I'm thinking, man, we had all these boom, boom, boom meetings and stuff, and we're doing worship, and now I was noticing nobody has a Bible. So I said, can we buy some Bibles for these people? They're like, yeah, we'll have to figure out where. So we went to 3 Christian bookstores that had been closed. And we found, they said, well, you know, it's towns away, so we drive like 90 miles to find this little town where they're selling Bibles on the sidewalk. But a little Zondervan Bible cost us 12 or 14, was $90 there.
Whoa.
So we find the ATM, we pull out all we can, just clean out the account, $900, and we bought Bibles, a couple bags of Bibles to give away. Some in the Fijian language and some in English, because most of them speak English. We're going, it's the only day we had free. And so these people we ran into, they just started the biggest TV station there was going Christian. So they said, hey, could you drop us one of your CDs about your testimony? I'm like, sure. So we stopped by to drop the CD at the TV station. So we're meeting some of their pastors and praying with them for the TV. The guy says, oh yeah, it's about 10 minutes. I go, 10 minutes till what? 10 minutes till you're doing your show. I'm like, what do you mean I'm doing this show? You're going to go on TV.
Surprise.
We can't expose this stuff the government's doing corrupt, but you can as from the USA.
Wow. Yeah.
So I did a deal exposing. I'm like, well, who's hosting the show? You are. You can invite your guests and you're the host. I didn't even know what the name of the station was. So I had to be on TV and do this show about what's going on, because there are a lot of the little islands that are being abused that the other islands don't even know about. So I exposed the corruption on TV. So I did a whole program that was just blasting out live. And they said, yeah, you might not be as friendly when you come back through customs next time.
You think?
And I'm like, okay. The guy had a plan. And one of the houses, we were like, I was going to brag on God. This is fun to brag on God. So we're going to this place, and it's the only day we're going to kind of shop some and do some stuff, see, because the ladies want to shop some. And so I was thinking, every country I go to, I always find something really unique that we could buy, like some unique food or something. So we're traveling by this McDonald's, and it says they have a mango burger. I've never even heard of a mango burger, so I'm thinking, hey, we got to stop and just see what it tastes like, you know? So we go to McDonald's, I'm thinking, let's go there. So as we're going there after the TV station to get the mango burgers, and guess what? They were out.
Oh, no.
So we never get to have them. But there's this guy, and he's selling stuff, but guy highlighted him. See, there's people selling stuff all over, but that guy got to that one. So we go over to him, and we bought everything he had for sale. See, this guy, they had 8 children, and he was in the army, and he was on a peacekeeping deal, and they shot him at one of the checkpoints, and he was the only guy that lived out of the Fijians that were there on that checkpoint for the United Nations. And so, but he was injured, so he couldn't work, so that's where he was selling that stuff. But God sent him, and we just said, hey, would you like a Bible? And we had this nice leather-bound Bible, and it was expensive, and he knew that. Do you want it in Fijian? Do you want it in English? Either way, we got your Bible. God just told me to give you a Bible, and we're going to buy your stuff from you. So we cleaned him out. So his family's been at home starving. They live way out in the jungle, in a little hut. So then we said, hey, what are you doing tonight? This is the only time the church called and canceled. I have a big schedule. So what are you doing tonight? We'd like to come out to your place. Why don't you get a few neighbors, whoever you can, and we'll come to your hut and we'll do worship, and we'll just do a service with you. So they're like, okay. So we go out there, and here's his wife saying, God, wife that day is going, God, if you love me, why are my kids starving? If you love me, why the pastors never visited me? If you love me, why the neighbors never come around? If you love me, what's going on? So we have to go out there in this two-wheel drive van, wondering if we're going to get there or ever get out. It's raining. They have kids that say, kid will be in this colored shirt. They'll point which way you turn here. This kid will be over here to turn that way. And then they only had a little solar power light, and it stayed on for hours longer than it ever had on a sunny day. So God did a miracle to keep us there. So we got to this place, and God said, run in and just scream this to this lady. Your ambassador is here from Christ to share his love.
Amen.
So I know she's been praying all day, but God did. He said, here we are, sharing his love.
Amen.
She's just weeping, saying, well, my pastor wouldn't even come from right by here. Why is that? I go, I can't answer that question. That's not for me. But I can tell you, God loves you enough, and he heard your prayer today. She had their first meal because her husband got to go home with money and feed her kids. And we got to, she's worried that we don't have chairs to sit on for us, in this hut. I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't care about no stinking chairs. I care about loving you here.
Come on.
So then we loved her. We took an offering for her, gave her enough to go buy weeks worth of groceries for her family. We paid. Their oldest boy was going to a trade school, and they were just going to have to pull him out. That's why they were hungry. They said, we got to get something to break this chain of poverty. So we paid his tuition off for his school. We set back money for him, and we set up some stuff. But then I said this to her. God said, I'm not through with you yet. After worship and after all the prayers, said, now that you've been blessed to be a blessing. Now will you go to your neighbor and love on him like you want God to love on you?
Come on. Yeah.
Will you go love on your pastor? He probably needs that so he can go love on somebody.
Amen.
What will you do now? See, this isn't just one deal. What are you going to do? Because God says, I want to live in you big and get up and pour out over this whole region. You can go in places they wouldn't let me come in.
That's right.
We see God move mighty. A lot of things happen. Incredible. Learned a lot of stuff. Incredible. It's a beautiful place to visit. The air is so pure and so beautiful. The water around the ocean is like bath water. It's just warm. It's beautiful. Just seeing God move mightily. He came back and just little kids. The last place I preached was in the first place I preached. I'm coming down off this hill, and I preached there 3 times. And so they put boom big speakers out, and they hear it all over the little huts on the hill. And we're coming down that hill, and they're going, thank you, Pastor Ron, for loving us and coming here. All the way down, kids are coming out of them huts and people. I almost didn't go. I would have missed a huge blessing. See, God's appointed good deeds to each one of us. That's what it says in Ephesians 2:10. Not some special people. But it's an extraordinary God living through ordinary people saying, will you answer the call? Will you get up and answer this call for what I have for you? Will you go when it doesn't even look like there's a way, because he is a way? Will you stand up and will you do? See, God's looking for people that say, hey, I know who the answer is. He lives inside me. I may not know all the answers for you right now, but I know I could pray for you and God will do something because he's listening to me and he cares about me. See, he's someone that when he's moving and he's doing stuff, wow, you see what God does. I've watched God do and move in so many ways that's just incredible. And moving and moving and moving. He's saying, it's like when you stand up and watch what he pours out into you and think, how can I keep this inside? There's several times I've had to go against the flow, and God's honored it every time. And it isn't always fun to go against the flow. It's not fun. But God, when God shows it, then you're like, wow. My wife always said, when my wife, we didn't know each other very long, God told us to marry each other. It's a crazy story. And when he had us married, and she was driving along right before we got married and said, who is this guy? He said, it's one of my Elijahs. That's what it is. But see, God said, I'm going to take you from Elijah to Elisha. There's a big difference. Elisha's a completer. He's one that didn't run from the big battles. And he just said, he even told his servant. His servant said, why aren't you freaking out? He said, open his eyes, let him see what I see.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, what do you see? I see bigger chariots, a lot more of them coming
Yeah, that's
than
right.
here.
Yeah.
If our eyes were open to see what God has for us and what He has planned down the road. But you know what? He doesn't do that because He wants us to move in faith.
Yeah,
Come on.
that's
He gives us one piece at a time, sometimes just half a piece even. And that half a piece is enough if you know His voice and you know His leading. And when you go out on that,
That's great, Ron.
you can't go wrong. I mean, before I got electrocuted, those who know, I took 100,000 volts and blew me all up and blew these fingers off. And God, I put them back on. I fell down 40 foot and broke everything that was left. And my lungs were just shattering. My insides were totally cooked. And just everything was a mess. Then they gave me full-blown AIDS and hepatitis C through blood transfusions. There was no hope for me. But there was no hope before Jesus came in my life.
Come on.
Hallelujah.
There was less hope than what I had right then.
Wow.
Because when Jesus comes,
Mm.
I don't have to rely on my mind because it's not very sharp. I don't have to rely on me. I have the Holy Spirit say, put this foot here, put that foot there. And He gave me a mouth to say the stuff that He puts in my heart. To say, I'm not receiving this anymore. Most of my life I received everything that comes at me, but not everything that comes at me is from God. And when I rebuke it in the Lord and it don't quit, then I say, okay, God, show me what you're teaching me from that. But most times it quits.
Yeah.
Because the bad stuff that comes in our lives, see how we stand up and speak it out.
Yeah.
It's not, Alan put a good word out the other day about believing. You can believe it, Satan believes it.
Yeah.
But it's what goes on. See, when we speak out scripture out of faith, that's something different. Then it comes alive. And that alive moves inside your heart. It steers it up and it comes out
That's
with
right.
fire and power.
That's right.
It comes out with life and
Amen.
comes out as a sword. It cut the enemy back.
Oh, yeah.
We praise Him. I'm telling you, I've been telling people, if you see a pastor that doesn't like praise and worship, find a new church. I'm just serious. I'm sorry. If they don't love worshiping the very thing, because that's what we're coming away. If you don't like worship now, you're going to hate heaven, because it's all about worship.
That's all about it.
So, but I'm telling you, this is the deal. I pray that you become the most dangerous group of people that ever was to the devil.
Come on.
I pray you unpopulate hell and populate heaven.
Oh.
I pray that you move with the very fire that God gives you, because each one of us, and even in Revelations it says that it's the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony defeats the devil. See, every one of our testimonies in God is meant to get somebody saved. Miracles are meant just as a door to get people saved.
Yeah.
I go share my story about being totally blown up and dead and in the morgue and God coming back. If you never heard it, I've only got a few CDs with me, but you can have one of them and hear the whole story, but whatever until they go. But I'm telling you that God is so beautiful. And when He comes and He fills you full of life. I had someone a while back said, you got to quit talking about being raised from the dead. I'm like, how do you not talk about that? How do you not say how wonderful your dad was? That He comes and blows breath back into you, and you get up, then He blows breath back into you, and your broken up body that doesn't work snaps in, and you walk out of the hospital. How do you